Expecting, so if we start the meeting, can I ask, are there any apologies?
Councillors Messent and Evans.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody, although it seems a long time ago. To note, members' declarations of interest. Has anybody got any declarations relevant to items on the agenda? Can't see anybody. So moving on to item 3, to confirm the minutes of the Finance and Governance Committee held on the 21st of November 2023. Has anybody got any comments on the minutes in terms of accuracy? No. Does anybody want to propose them?
I'll propose them.
Councillor Hogben, Councillor Dame Francis seconding. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 4 is public participation. I can't see any members of the public present. Have we got anybody submitting questions?
None.
Thank you. So we move on to item 5, which is to review the year-to-date financial position and material variances for Crewe Town Council. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a quick look at the papers. Do you want to give us a brief summary?
We're in remaining in a strong financial position, all looking very positive. It's likely to be underspending aspects. There's a new aspect to this you'll see, which is material variances. That's a interim audit recommendation, which we put into practice straight away. And there are no material variances of any concern, really.
Can you explain to me what a material variance is?
A material variance is a variance off budget and projected spend that is, some significance rather than a few pounds here and there. It has to be something of measurable variance. So I've put a 10% notional value on that, and that's where in the report I've explained each one. They're all very innocuous. Nothing to get too worried about. In fact, in the year, the one material variance will be the purchase of land surrounding railway cottages.
We didn't exactly plan for that, did we?
Well, no, there was no need to plan for that.
We didn't know it was coming up.
No, quite right.
Has anybody else got any questions or comments? Councillor Hogben?
Yeah. It's in the first bit on page, agenda page 7. Excuse me. It was on the parks and allotments, and I noticed that there's item 4420, parks and allotments. The actual year to date was well above the annual budget, and I noticed, yes, there is a transfer from the reserve. Can you say what that was?
That's the material variance of buying the land around the railway cottages.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Because I
Kel
saw
level
that,
of your
but I didn't go in that case. I suppose I ought to declare an interest.
No, it doesn't require any decision.
It doesn't
There's no need for any declarations of interest in that.
Because there was another one. I'm sure I saw something about trees.
There is at the end of the meeting, yes.
Yeah, I think that's because when I saw this, it said 7,000 awaiting tree works invoice.
Yeah.
I wondered.
That's nothing to do with that, no. That's to do with an allotment site.
That's what I wondered. But it's that's not a very significant figure then. What's this, £55?
Well, it's a 10% variance on something. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, right. Why not?
I'm just like, right.
Well, that's just, did you just make up 10%?
Well, you've got to set a figure somewhere. So.
Well, it's not 10. Yeah, all right. So that's what it was. Thank you. That's.
Or maybe I've gone overboard and made reference to many variances. I can't remember. I did this before, not just now.
No, it's just that one. I mean, was interesting, the one about the enforcement officer, I thought.
Oh, I think that, right, I've gone down to the allotments, that's a weighted tree works invoice, I mean, because of significant underspend, the 55 represents what has been spent year to date, and as we're far enough in the year, there's been a very low spend on that,
Yeah.
but there is an invoice associated with tree works
Nice.
for that, that's what I left.
Yes, it's
I get there in the end, Steve.
well, same here. Oh, I see. Yes, it's because with the column headings there
Yeah.
on the first page. Yeah. Right. So it's still likely to be well within.
It'll be under budget, but the variance is that it's underspent. Yeah.
Because I was a bit surprised when I saw this parks and allotments. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
right, okay. I shall say no more on that topic. Thank you.
Okay.
Can we have that recorded?
It's only on that one item. That has been recorded anyway. Right, that's just the first one.
Right, so has anybody else got any other comments around item 5? So we just have to note that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no vote needed there, we've just got to note the spending. So item 6, to consider and approve payments to date for recommendation to council between the 1st, the 11th, 2023 and the 31st of 12th, 2023 to the value of £157,000, £992.91p. Has anybody got any comments on the payments? Because we actually have to approve this.
No, I've done my checks.
The members do check, don't they, individual invoices?
Chairs of committees have all invoices circulated to them twice a month as they arrive in batches, and asked to authorise payment so that we can keep our suppliers paid, and then they come formally to committee and council for transparency and accountability.
I'll move acceptance.
Right, and Councillor Clark said that. Has anybody got any comments before we move to the vote? No?
No.
All those in favour? Thank you. So we're on to item 7, which is to review the policies. And they are quality policy, SIL allocation policy, risk management policy, information and data protection policy, and the Mayor's allowance scheme. So, Pete, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, the policies in order, the quality policy, there's timings to change there, associated with the word clients replaced with residents. Community infrastructure levy allocation policy is a new one that is required because we will be awarded a small amount of SIL money this financial year, and we therefore have to account for it in a different sort of way. This policy is an off-the-shelf version, which obviously is topped and tailed for us. There's nothing too challenging there, but it's not a track change one because it's brand new. The next one after that is risk management policy, which is only very slightly amended, just some grammar really. After that, information data protection policy, that is related to data protection statutes, quite in depth, but has I barely changed at all. Again, a grammar change, I think is what's happening in that one. And it's annexes, or appendices, sorry. And then the last one, I'm going to skip through the pages. Mayor's allowance scheme, I've made some amendments to that. Some of it's a bit of grammar, and some of it's updating the way we operate, because we don't operate on Mayor's charity anymore, and haven't for a while. And so those there, and they're all track changes part of the SIL policy, so that's brand new.
Thank you. Councillor Clark?
The SIL funding, which committee will that sit under here?
Well, it sits under this one really,
Right,
or
yeah.
council, depending on the timings.
So when the SIL funding comes in, we'll know from what ward it's...
Yeah, we'll know exactly which
Related to-
development it comes in from,
From-
and which ward therefore, and then this SIL policy indicates that members might want to bid into it for,
Right.
for projects.
Will it be restricted to the ward where the still the funding that's
It's
going
not
on.
stated in the policy,
That's it, no, I didn't
but
think
it
that's
might
it.
be a principle you might as members wanted to agree to.
Yeah.
The reason we don't want to be too ward restrictive is sometimes the development is very close to the adjacent ward, or the development might affect somewhere else in the
Or
town.
it could be used for a
Yeah.
crew-wide event.
Something of benefit to all the town as well as those residents. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's there to be used in a more flexible way. I think a principle of where most appropriate the relevant ward is quite right. However, not to be too prescriptive on that, to give the opportunity for what might be
So it's
facing.
having debated.
Yeah.
So basically, are you saying that the ward that raises the money gets preference?
Well, I'm suggesting to you that might be an informal agreement of members to take that view. If there is an appropriate project to come up and there's two to choose from, maybe it would be a way of looking at it. If you want it formalised in the policy, it can be formalised, but it might be a bit prescriptive in that way, causing more problems than it solves.
Because I was going to ask, well, what? Yeah, it says right at the outset, excuse me, this needs to be spent on locally determined infrastructure in areas where development takes place. Which actually is as long as it's long, because the development could be anywhere in the, more or less in the country or in the borough. In fact, when it
Yes,
says,
but not as far as we're concerned.
not as far as we're concerned, no. So I mean, you can interpret that, in areas where somewhere in that general area. And I think the point about the chances are that any infrastructure, well, whatever it might be, is going to be used by people from an area round and about. I'm just wondering, it's not to do with this policy, but is there any indication of how much we might...
£6,000.
It's
It's not world changing stuff, but it's
No,
it's not small money either. So.
No, but it might do
It's a nice to have opportunity.
one or two sort of small
Yeah.
projects or capital
Enhancements.
things. Enhancements, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I
Oh,
just,
the mayor's allowances, yeah.
yeah, go on.
Yeah. It's
Do I have to declare an interest in this?
oh yes, it could be.
Yes,
It could be prejudicial, and it could be, what's the word? Pecuniary, potential pecuniary interest.
Is he swearing at me? Sorry.
No, it could be a financial interest if you went so far as to claim anything. I mean,
I declare an interest just in case.
And I bet then as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I've written those in for you.
yeah, it's interestingly slim.
Yeah.
I'll say nothing more on slimness, but do we have any kind of policy in general on payment of expenses? And I'm not lobbying for them. The reason I ask is that quite recently I was, for no particular reason, I was looking at the details of what's it called now, Leighton, Woolston, Wood, Minchell, Vernon Parish Council. And so just having a glance at it out of interest, and I noticed they have had an expenses scheme, which is actually almost as lengthy as for a principal council. There's quite a lot to it anyway.
We do have access to expenses for members. Members rarely, if ever, have dipped into it as yet. But yes, there is the capacity to do that if members wanted to, and there is policy associated.
We wisely, in my opinion, restrict it to
Crew members
the
are
principal citizen.
Crew members are very generous with their time as volunteers, as well as the cost of delivering their voluntary service.
What's it, 45p a mile, isn't it? Stay on a minute.
Yeah, it is.
What'd you say, Don?
It's maximum claim without going to the taxman. Thank you.
Right, I'll come back to my question. I just wondered how we got any SIL when the SIL rating for crew is nil.
I don't
There's
understand
no
it,
money.
but I don't understand it myself.
We're not
I've
going
applied
to say
still
no to it.
to development, and I don't want to scare it away.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
the whole of crew has a nil rating
I know,
for
yeah.
SIL.
All conurbations in Cheshire East have a nil SIL rating as well. So it surprised me, that's why we don't have a SIL policy, because we never expected to receive any. That said, we are receiving some, and so we need, unfortunately, to have a policy associated.
Am I right in saying that SIL money comes from the buildings that are built in
Developer,
Croydon.
yeah.
Or
It's
develop-
It's a developer
Developers.
contribution.
Yeah.
So,
Like a section on a...
well, Crewish, I mean, it was over 1,300 houses gone up in
Yep.
Crewish.
Yeah, but they don't attract it.
Sorry?
They don't attract it.
No, because still 106 is developer contributions, and we've always had those, but this was a new thing introduced by the government, and Cheshire East in their wisdom decided that all the towns would have a 0 rating, so they would not collect any silt from the developers building in the towns.
So where's it going then?
Well, they just don't charge it. They don't, so there must be some residue left over from what they've collected
Yeah.
from other areas. That's the only thing I can
Once
think anyway.
received, I will write a report.
Well, don't worry about it. Don't, whatever you do, don't give it back.
Well, that's the name. That's the name.
Oh, but so basically it's the leavings from the table. So as some yeah, instead of being able to dine at the table and have a full portion, all we get is the scraps off the table by the sounds of it.
Well,
But
legally,
I just wonder why
legally
that
it's
is.
15% of the silk contribution that's received by Cheshire East.
Oh, I see.
So I haven't done the maths on £6,000 as 15%, but I'm sure we can do it between us.
40,000.
Yeah.
It's not a, so it wasn't a. And it would rise to 25% if we had an adopted neighbourhood plan, but presumably an adopted neighbourhood plan would cost more to
Yeah.
to
If
make
the
it.
town doesn't attract silk, it wouldn't be viable.
But all the little villagers getting it.
So it does sound, well, that's something for another place to look at, isn't it?
That was. All right. So, if anybody, people have not got any other questions. Is anybody willing to propose these to be recommended on to council? Councillor Clark proposing. Anybody willing to second? Councillor Murray. All those in favour? Thank you. To note the outcome of the budget setting process 24-25.
Well, I don't think any of this will challenge or surprise you. It's the budget setting process, and this is a finance and governance committee. It thinks only appropriate to bookend the process that it falls here. The report indicates that maybe you want to note the draft budget, which really sets the precept level, and that you might seek to steer the committee chairs to draft their business plans within budget. Obviously, it might be, as we discussed before, that committees might redraft their budgets to say what they wanted to say, but that was what it says right now. But the numbers are the numbers, and that's it really.
Has anybody got any comments?
If we're going to steer the chairs, do we also steer them then as necessary to involve the members of their committee? It doesn't necessarily have to be on at a formal meeting, I don't suppose. But I think it's worthwhile to suggest that.
Yeah.
I've changed that from steer their committees to steer their committee members.
Okay.
Yeah. I just think it's. So do we need to take a vote on that, or is it just to note?
No, you can if you want. I would say you've noted it and you've indicated an intent to ask members to be proactively engaged in the business delivery plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So we're just noting that. So if we go on to item 9, to review the current committee structure and progress of the structural review.
This process started with this committee in the start of September, based on a new administration and refreshed and revised corporate priorities. It was viewed quite rightly that the committee structure might need a refresh as well to make sure it reflects those corporate priorities, which we've gone through. This is the third coat of looking at Scott. Members have been engaged, officers have been engaged, and obviously this committee has been engaged. The chair specifically has been engaged in this, and to have in front of you what seems to have come out the other side. I hope it reflects what everyone's understood so far. It should do. It indicates that realistically the committee structure is in a similar sort of context. The planning committee will take on a little bit more formal understanding of planning environment, which includes the building environment, but also the ecological environment. Finance and governance would stay very similar to this, but the corporate functions would fall more to finance and governance. The marketing events will be more events and culture, to focus on that. The corporate strategy aims of lots of events, but also developing culture and arts trails and things like that, more visible arts in the community. Operations and services is more broadly changed, and the current presumption is that it might be called Public Services Committee, to reflect that it's more practical operational aspects. And community plan simplified to community committee, because it reflects what its intentions are within the corporate strategy. Under that, the report goes on to point out that because the strategy changes, there will be new focuses to be delivered, and there are some considerations to take forward. That the draft structure, having been shared for a greater engagement and consultation, should be recommended to Council for adoption and implementation in May 2024. The amended Council and Committee terms of reference, which are appended to this report, track changes. Terms of reference should be approved for recommendation to Council for adoption and implementation in 2024. And the Personnel Subcommittee is tasked with the review of the effective role descriptions, proposed amendments and associated actions and consultations.
Has anybody got any questions? Comments?
I think there ought to be, I really do. Don't because otherwise, plainly, this is going to go to council, and there's plenty of, it seems to me there's plenty of opportunity if people want to, excuse me, slightly refine or make suggestions. Presumably that's not something we have to do now tonight. I mean, it would be a bit daft, to be honest.
Well, no, but there comes a point where you, if as a committee or as members you want to go down this road and reflect any new priorities and changes, that you stamp a decision and make a decision. I would suggest only that as we've gone through it from September and it's on its third iteration, it's been shared with members, shared with chairs, shared with officers.
Well,
I wonder how much refining we've got to
well,
carry
the
on.
structure, I mean, I'm not talking about the structure, I think in terms of reference, that's what I was thinking of, because that's where there's a lot of, there's lots of things there. I'm sure you've done a very thorough job, but that's the sort of area, not the overall kind of ideas, because that has been discussed.
They can be recirculated and shared around for further comment if you like. That's absolutely fine with me.
I think there'd be no harm in that. I mean, if we can recommend, undoubtedly recommend whatever it says, recommend the structure to council, and the terms of reference might be sort of
Should be shared with members for any further comment prior to
the
recommendation to council.
Yeah, because there would be any changes or amendments would be fairly minor. Might be.
Well, we don't want to predetermine that, do we?
No, I mustn't predetermine anything there, Dave. But that I think would be quite helpful, because for many members will not have seen the terms of reference.
It's true.
And are unlikely to have read them by tonight. I mean, it's open to the public, but there's a couple of months till
I think it's not an operational issue to do what you're suggesting there. They can be circulated and any comments incorporated or considered.
That's what I'd like to see in there.
And I've made the amendment to the recommendations so far.
Well, I propose that if someone wants to support me.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Chair.
Sorry,
Councillor Ross.
Councillor Clark?
It was John next.
No, I thought I proposed.
Right. Councillor Rhodes?
I think from when we started back in September until where we are now, I think we've actually gone through due process. Members have had their opportunity to feedback. So I think the principle of the changes that we've from as is to be, I would like to recommend, and what is subject to maybe a bit more scrutiny would be the terms of reference. because we haven't seen that.
Yeah.
And I think we can be in a position where we could recommend the changes subject to the terms of reference finality, and we can go forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second what he just said.
Are you seconding what I just said?
I was
Well,
going
I'll tell
to say,
So you can third it. I'm very happy to give way to. I'm very happy to give way to the
No, it's all
to
right.
the chairman of the council.
All over,
Can you
oh,
tell?
sorry.
Can I
No.
ask the
Go on.
clerk a question?
Kevin?
This new plan, Public Service Committee, it says Town Centre Management if no bid.
Yeah,
So
that's...
where does that leave
Well,
that bit?
it doesn't leave it anyway. Right, that is unfortunately just because it's a small space to write in. We should really say if not covered by the bid. So the bid itself is now approved, it's going forward. There's a board for that bid to take it forward. It's a separate entity from the Town Council entirely, which is run by or led by businesses in that area, in that town centre area, which is great. The priorities of that bid, when it's delivered, are currently defined at quite a high level, so associated with promotion, associated with tackling antisocial behaviour, and associated with the environment, which means public realm maintenance, that sort of thing. What that actually turns out to be, there will be gaps and spaces in amongst that in terms of a town centre management aspect. But unfortunately, I can't predict exactly what that will look like. So the bid might just focus, I don't think it will, excuse me, well theoretically, could just focus on lots of planting schemes and spend all this money on planting schemes around the town centre. Yeah, I'm not saying it will, I'm just theorising. And that would then leave the other aspects of town centre maintenance and management unattended to, and therefore that committee would then want to look at how it might address any of those.
Right.
That makes sense. So there's a bit of vagueness there until we see how the bid comes forward.
Right, so, way down there we have a proposal from Councillor Clark and seconded from Councillor Strain Francis, is that correct?
There was definitely a proposal, and there's definitely a seconder.
I can't remember.
I think it might be. It might be.
Still
Kevin.
Broadman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was Steve followed by John.
I think I did
Right,
propose an amendment.
Steve proposed an amendment.
Well, you know,
So the motion becomes fine, thank you very much.
right.
That was seconded by
If
councillor.
we're going for a technicality,
It doesn't
there's
really
considerations in the report. The proposal came first, which is entirely what Steve said, which amended the considerations is all, not a proposal. That there should be the principle of adoption of the structure is recommended, and that is subject to great scrutiny in terms of reference by members for future recommendation on this to council.
Right, so based on the amendment, which is that we recommend to council the adoption and implementation of the new committee system, that we circulate to members the terms of reference for further comment, which will then again be recommended to council, and that we recommend to the personnel committee that they take on whatever duties are necessary to implement this
If it were to
with
affect
the,
staff.
if it was accepted at council with the relevant officers.
yeah,
So that's what we're voting on.
yeah,
All those in favour?
yeah.
Thank you.
Does the amendment now become the proposal?
The substantive motion.
Sorry.
Can I just ask, it's a
Move on.
technicality, but it's not to change the decision, but what's the difference between a consideration and a proposal?
Well, I can't propose anything, I'm not an elected member. You must propose something. I've tried to help members with the considerations you might consider to propose. You've taken my considerations and improved upon them with your phrasing.
It's just the wording, I mean, it's just the wording. Sometimes you see things like, it is recommended that the committee or
Yeah.
such and such. But in this case,
I use the word considerations because I'm much more gentle.
much more gentle and much more neutral. You don't-
Yeah, I'm trying to help you on rather than push you on.
Right, moving on. Item 10. To receive the interim internal audit recommendation to council.
There we go. There's 3 observations that the auditors made, one of which you've seen earlier, which is about excuse me, which is about the variations on spend. Another to do with things to do with salaries, and it's written in that the chairperson sees all that. And check this with review of governance identified in policies for gifts and hospitalities. So gifts and hospitalities will be brought forward to the next F&G as a policy for review.
And we dealt with the John McBride Trust.
Yeah, all the ones in grey have already been addressed. That's historical internal, so you just keep on record to show it's carrying on.
And yeah, so that's all to do with the John McBride Trust.
Yeah.
So anybody got any other comments upon other than that's all to do with the John McBride Trust?
Excuse me.
No, that's all right. Is anyone willing to propose that then for recommendation to council?
Me?
Councillor Clark? Anybody willing to second? Councillor Strain-Francis? All those in favour of recommending the internal report to council? Yes, that's unanimous. Right, we're on to item 11, which is to consider tree management contract for capital assets.
Yeah, the council owns 11 allotment sites and also the shared space around the railway cottages, and with that comes liabilities. And one of those liabilities is associated with tree maintenance. Trees not maintained properly can fall and drop on people, which is not a nice thing, and is also a risk for the council anyway, but we don't want to be that council that doesn't maintain them properly. This is proposing, it's not proposing, it's recommending or asking to consider putting in place a 3-year contract for tree inspections with an appropriately qualified and skilled organisation based on the procurement of that. They were the most affordable and appropriately trained organisation. So I'm asking you to approve the spend. That's the basic of that.
Councillor Clark?
And could I just ask, does this include the poplars on the Brookhouse allotments?
It does. The poplars that's technically Man Away.
Yeah.
That one. The poplars have been inspected by a tree inspector and they are safe and there's no recommendation for any intervention.
Right.
But they would include them anyway because it would be all the
and some are
sites.
going to rip them down.
Yeah, the site committee was seeking they would be cut down.
Right.
ANSA said they would cut them down. Someone didn't like that idea, so we paused that work.
Yeah.
And we got them inspected and the trees are perfectly safe and healthy under that inspection, so no requirement to cut them down.
That's good. That's good.
Councillor Hogburn?
In that case, who has the final say? I mean, it's very interesting, I mean, that it's mentioned that it was a proposal by the committee of the site, well, we'll just chop them down, and presumably, had there not been a complaint, that could have happened.
Yeah, it could have happened. It shouldn't happen. It should. No material or physical changes to allotments are allowed under the lease without a written approval of the council. So it came back to us when we found out that was the plan from ANSA and that they'd been intervened by a resident and also a plot holder. And then to assess whether it was appropriate to chop them down, to be fair on that site, there are issues with having extremely large trees right in the middle of the site. They do drop sticks and branches and leaves all over the place, and they do blight a number of plots in and around them. So it's not a black and white issue, although they are white poplars. But in the end, if the decision to take down mature trees, it would really need a good reason to take them down. As they're not unhealthy or in any danger, it wouldn't be appropriate to chop them down wholesale on that basis. So that work isn't going ahead.
So is it needling some of the residents?
Very good.
But the poplars
Leave it
don't
out.
have needles.
Yeah, we're all there. They're all-
So how much, because the thing that's sort of, the lease says one thing, that you can't make material infrastructure changes, or is it?
I'm really sorry. What was the start of the question?
You mentioned that under the terms of the lease,
Yes.
the leases to the different allotments, they cannot make.
Yeah. They can't
infrastructure
chop down a
changes.
tree without permission of
Is
the
that-
landowner, which is us.
It's just, and presumably there are other conditions in the lease.
Can't put up buildings, can't put in roads without that, can't dig trenches, can't dig ditches, can't take the fence down, put in new gateways or accesses, anything like
Yeah. So basically,
You can dig,
Wait.
veg.
that. They can maintain allotments as they are provided to a good standard, which they do as volunteer groups very well.
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I've had a lot myself for many years at Brookhouse. But how much do they feed back? These committees, if they want to do something, are we satisfied that they actually do link up? Because it does sort of slightly concern me.
I'm saying that they don't do things without permission.
Hmm,
There are 11 sites,
yeah.
many off scale, and there's one of me. I can't pretend to know everything that goes on all of them. So we don't have an allotments officer because it would be inappropriate. So I think we have a very positive relationship with the allotment sites. I really do. Not naively, I hope. I don't think there's much going on that they wouldn't tell us about. I think they're really positively engaged with us. I can't talk for stuff I don't know about.
Is there a time scale where trees must be inspected, should we say?
No, not statutorily. So if a bit of tree falls down and breaks a greenhouse, it would be questioned whether that tree had been properly inspected and was it safe to still be in its condition. And if we couldn't evidence that it had been inspected and seen as safe in the last 12 months, it might be argued that we'd been negligent in our inspection regime and we couldn't prove that it was appropriately safe at that point.
Right.
So that's why you have it. And obviously the potential of worse things happen than just breaking the greenhouse as well. So a bit of tree falling off can happen. So if a bit of tree falls off in very high winds, then that's not down to negligence, that's down to bad weather. Yeah, but if it falls off because it was diseased and we hadn't done anything about it, and we hadn't evidence, we checked on it relatively recently, then that could be negligence.
Councillor Rhodes?
Just asking how this would operate. In the first year, I mean, I guess we haven't got any other than those poplars that we've done because of the work on the ground. Have we done any work previous on these allotments to look at the trees? Or is this like a
only
stake in the
informally-
ground?
Only informally by
So-
me, but I'm not qualified.
So this company will do the survey of all the 11 allotments and the railway cottages?
Yes.
And then any work, they will grade it, no doubt. But,
Yep.
I mean, I know some experience from Ruskin School. We have to do it because it can take a lot of money we haven't really got, but you have to do it in case something happens. So they will then do a full survey, and let's hopefully everything's okay. But if it isn't, then there'd be an extra fee for them to do that. This is just for them to carry out surveys.
Exactly right.
So potentially in that, particularly in the first year,
We could identify.
we
road
could have
issues. You
identified
are-
some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That said, I have had the tree team out on tree team answer Cheshire East arboricultural arm. I've had those out on 3 sites where the main trees are, just to double check, and there are no issues to address that they see. But that said, it's not insured work they've done for us. It's more a positive relationship.
But this will be.
This will be
This will
formal,
be-
and we'll have reports, and we'll have records of due process.
I'm not against it. I just
Yeah,
said
yeah,
it could
quite
well
right.
be some more long costs. Well, you have to do it. It's not nice to have, which you've got to do.
Kevin?
I take it this is a 3-year contract
Correct.
for £7,200 plus any work that needs to be done in the future.
Yep. That's it. It is not £7,000, it's £6,000.
Yeah,
Because we claim all the VAT back, so we don't have to worry about the VAT.
just looking at the bottom
Yeah,
line.
yeah, I got it here.
Right, so basically we're covering ourselves, aren't we, for any insurance claims that might result.
Yeah, I like to think that proactive and positive management of assets. Well, yes, we're covering ourselves. Yeah.
Steve?
So, seeing as this is
What was the
mostly about
bossity about tonight? The bossity.
I think he's talking about me.
I don't want to get involved in any.
Right, come on then, Councillor Hogberg.
Yeah, we've not been here long, have we?
No.
Doesn't mean,
Well, we haven't.
doesn't mean you don't have to stretch it out,
I'm not
Steve.
stretching it out. I'm not stretching it out. I'm making, we have a doc, we do this about 3 or 4 times a year, and we don't, we speak now if we ever hold your peace, isn't it? Allotments. Which committee do they come under?
Well, under the new structure, they will come under this committee as a central
Right,
asset.
thank you. Thank you very much.
That's okay.
I'll go, Steve.
More work for you.
Anyone else got any comments?
Good night.
So are we willing to, this is a committee decision, isn't it? So is anybody willing to propose that we accept this contract? Yes, loads of people. I'll let you choose. Anybody willing to second? All those in favour? Thank you. So I now declare the meeting closed at nearly